Welcome back to the United Pubcast, Brighton versus Manchester United preview. Finally, some football to discuss. It does seem like an age since the Aston Villa result and performance at Old Trafford a few days ago. It's more than a few days ago now. It definitely does feel that. There's been so much going on around Manchester United. Is certainly the case for that. Obviously, everything around Sir Jim and Qatar, Ratcliffe, or Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Qatar, and the Glazers, of course. So there has been so much happening. It's good to sort of have a little bit of football discussion because that's what we are. Obviously, a football club. Obviously, those discussions will return as soon as the full-time whistle does sort of occur. But just a little bit of a chat today. Larry is sort of injured in the pre-pod warm-up in the tunnel, just about to go live, but unfortunately he's unable to join us, so stuck with me just for today. So we'll just have to do a quick little preview, sort of bounce one or two ideas, opinions off each other in the live chat, and obviously one or two other topics around Manchester. And I'll try and stay clear today away from the ownership discussion because I wouldn't say I'm bored of it, but can get a little bit tedious at times. So if you do have any sort of questions, topics, or opinions, do throw them in the chat, and I'll leave my readout, and sort of we'll have a bit of a discussion there. And big day for Manchester United in regards to something I want to touch on in a little bit. Obviously, the Jimmy Murphy statue is being unveiled in a few hours outside the Stretford end, which I think needs to be sort of. It's great that he's getting recognition, but I think it needs to be a little bit sort of a bigger sort of thing made of it, in my opinion. But Brighton preview, tricky one because as Manchester United fans, I feel we have so many what we feel are bogey teams. The biggest bogey team for me over the last sort of 2 decades has been Chelsea. I think whenever we play Chelsea, it just has, my opinion, always the Chelsea win. The last couple of years has been Wolves. I think that's because we play Wolves about 12 times a season. It always felt like we lost against Wolves. Now it feels, in my opinion, no, we beat them only a couple of weeks ago, a short time ago. Well, technically we had a draw, beat them in the shootout, but it feels like whenever we go to Brighton, we lose. So they, in my opinion, they're my current bogey team, Brighton. Obviously, they do play good football, so maybe it's not a case of a bogey team. Maybe they just, on their day, they're a very good team, and sometimes they're better than Manchester United. But definitely a nervous feel going into this match. I don't have the table up in front of me, but obviously they are, look, they're not going to make top four, but my God, they've given a very good account of themselves and definitely within the shout. If they win all their games and 1 or 2 results go their way, they're going to find themselves in Champions League football. I don't think that will be the case. But off the back of their season, 100% credit to them, especially off what they sort of that transition in terms of losing their manager, losing 1 or 2 big players as well. Cucurella, for me, I thought he was always woeful. I didn't understand the hype about him at Brighton. I was shocked Chelsea spent big money on him, so I didn't see him as a big loss. But obviously, transition, especially through the manager, for them to come in and sort of seamlessly sort of move forward, I think 100% credit to Brighton. They deserve all the praise that's coming their way. George, good to see you in the chat, brings it up here, saying we can't get ahead of ourselves against Brighton. It wasn't too long ago they slapped us 4-0 at Old Trafford. Well, they didn't slap us 4-0 at Old Trafford, but I do remember that was 4-0. Was the end of last season? I think it was the end of last season, but obviously at Brighton. And we don't have a good record at Brighton. I think we won there during lockdown, and I think another one during lockdown was right at the start of the season where we scored after full time. That penalty was awarded Bruno Fernandes. But other than that, we do often go to Brighton and sort of get slapped, whether it be on the score line or with the football on the pitch. But hopefully it's a different case now. I'll bring up my starting 11. Let me know your thoughts in regards to would you agree with this, change this? Do you look to future fixtures, etc.? But I'll bring up my 11 here. I think it picks itself, in my personal opinion. Going David De Gea, obviously, is going to start between the sticks. You go Shaw and Lindelof at the back. Look, there is a case for obviously Harry Maguire is fit and available. Does the club captain come back in? I don't think he will. I believe our next game, I don't have the fixtures in front of me. I believe our next home game is West Ham at Old Trafford. If you want to give Harry Maguire some minutes there, I think West Ham at home is a far more suitable game for the captain. I say the captain than away at Brighton. So I think I don't want to sort of treat this as a preview of the FA Cup final, but it's obviously a very tough trip, and we have a tough sort of match to sort of prepare ourselves for in the FA Cup final. So I'll be looking at the moment in terms of what we have available. This is our strongest 11. Pretty much, I think, would you say? In my opinion, I think this is our strongest 11 off the top of my head. So I'll be going Shaw, Lindelof. Now, there is a sort of few rumours that Rafael Varane is obviously not for this match, but it is potentially going to be back before the FA Cup final. So come FA Cup final day, are we going to have a discussion around Shaw and Lindelof and Varane? I think so. But as things stand, they're the two sort of best available centre-backs. So I'll be going Shaw, Lindelof. At the back, Wan-Bissaka didn't start the last game, so I think he comes back in. Then Tyrell Malacia had a good game against Aston Villa, so I don't want to put him in a category of so-called dropping him, but I just think, okay, it did well, but I think Diogo Dalot is a little bit more solid, especially defensively, just in terms of mentally being switched on, etc. So I would be going Diogo Dalot. If Tyrell Malacia is rewarded for a fine performance, I'm going to lose no sleep over that. crack on at left back. But I think it will be Diogo Dalot. And if I was the manager, that's the decision I would be making there. Then the midfield three, again, in my opinion, picks itself. Again, I wouldn't sort of disagree with anyone if you want to sub Sabitzer in for Christian Eriksen. I don't have no issue there. And even if that is the case, you could potentially maybe drop Bruno Fernandes in a little bit deeper next to Casemiro and Sabitzer in the number 10. So potentially Sabitzer over Eriksen gives us maybe a little bit more flexibility in regards to how we line up in that middle three. I'm happy with whatever trio we go there. I think it'll be Christian Eriksen. I think he was very good against Aston Villa, maybe a bit of an underrated performance. So I'll be going Christian Eriksen, but if Sabitzer goes in there, again, I'm very happy with that. Then the front three, Anthony didn't start the last game, so I'll be throwing Anthony back in here, especially defensively. Brighton are going to have a lot of the ball. You do need Anthony's work rate. And up front's the interesting one. Obviously, Marcus Rashford did play the last game through there, and Anthony Martial hasn't been great since his return, but he's still our best striker, in my opinion, in regards to the way we play football. So, and Marcus Rashford, in my opinion, his best position at the moment is at left wing. So I'd be getting Marcus Rashford back into sort of playing towards his strengths. And I think he does link up quite well with Anthony Martial. The other options there, obviously, you could maybe play Marcus Rashford through the middle, and then Jadon Sancho keeps his spot on the left. Again, that is a very real possibility. I just think in terms of Erik ten Hag, ideally his strongest 11, I think he'll go with. And I believe this is the interesting shout is not for a starting spot, but Alejandro Garnacho looks like he is set to return to the matchday squad. Would you throw him in? Me personally, I wouldn't be throwing Alejandro Garnacho in from the start, but it is good to get him back, especially off the back of that contract. He now needs, no, I wouldn't say needs to, but any player needs to perform and sort of always progress with their career. But now he's got that contract. He needs to show sort of why he got that contract, and he's not. We still have to be sort of level-headed and sort of apply context when judging Alejandro Garnacho. He's still such a young player, but now he's on a big contract. The expectations have risen for Garnacho. So when he comes back in, he's not a young player coming in anymore. Now, to us in terms of being sort of patient with him, of course, but in regards to the expectation of performance, that will be set by Erik ten Hag. Alejandro Garnacho is going to be a key member of this squad. So he's not this player who's going to come in for 5 minutes here or there or play a Carling Cup game. Now we're going away to Brighton in a must-win game. Alejandro Garnacho, you're earning the big bucks. You've got to be thrown in the deep end a little bit. So I think it'll be good to see him on the bench, and obviously a weapon to come off. Now, Jadon Sancho, I think, has been performing quite well in the last couple of games. Would Garnacho sort of move ahead of him? Potentially he does. Maybe Sancho is maybe next off the cab on the right behind Anthony, and Garnacho takes his spot behind Marcus Rashford. I'm not sure. But do let me know your thoughts on that. I'll just go to sort of one or two other people in the chat, which is good to have everyone here. Chris, good to see you, mate. I've got a man crush on Gilberto Carlos. He's good. Obviously, he's Gilberto this season. He goes through those seasons where he's Gilberto Carlos, and then he's someone else, obviously, not sort of too high on the sort of fans' Christmas wish list. But Luke Shaw is doing brilliant at the moment. And you have to say, are we having a discussion around Luke Shaw in regards to, okay, he's a left back. That's all we've ever seen Luke Shaw as, Manchester United's left back, England's left back. But some players throughout their career, when they get to a certain stage of their career, maybe later on in terms of an age sort of bracket, but we start to look at a player changing positions in regards to maybe a fullback going to centre back, or a wide midfielder sort of dropping in the central midfielder, or a striker sort of dropping in a number 10, or a number 10 dropping in number 6. There's always these modifications as players get a little bit older. I'm not saying Luke Shaw's getting old. Sorry about that. Luke Shaw's not getting old per se, but he's getting on with his career. He has been around a while. Are we about to have a discussion around Luke Shaw's no longer a left back, that he's going to sort of turn into a centre back, and what does that mean for Manchester United's sort of transfers, future, etc.? I don't think that's the case. I still think he's a left back for many years to come, but he has shown a surprising sort of versatility to his game. So I wouldn't sort of, just your thoughts on that. Do you see Luke Shaw as a future centre back, or do you think he'll always be a left back? But another one, Rob, good to see you, mate, as always. George here. I'll be interested to see how Matoma and Ferguson go. I'll take them both United in a heartbeat. Definitely, I definitely want Evan Ferguson. I'm not sure Ferguson's injury status, because obviously he missed the match at Wembley against Man United in the semi-final through injury. If he's back now, potentially he is. Obviously, he's on trial, but he obviously did sign a contract at Brighton. So I don't think he's someone who's going to be coming in the short term. I think Manchester United's focus is definitely in and around Harry Kane. But speaking of... well, Rob's in the chat as well. He was having a chat on It's a Football thing a couple of days ago. An idea which I never even thought of in regards to Manchester United's pursuit of Harry Kane, the very likely possibility that Pochettino takes over at Chelsea. Chelsea got a splash of cash. Of course they are. They're going to throw money at anyone. I've never sort of given any thought of Harry Kane joining Chelsea, but they've sort of brought up the point in regards to Pochettino is unveiled, which is very likely at Chelsea. could you see him at Chelsea? Because my opinion, I've never given that any thought, but now I can see him in a blue shirt because of that Pochettino link. Now, I think if he had the choice in regards to where he sort of sees a brighter sort of future, he would go to Manchester United. But we do have to be careful. If you do want Harry Kane, you do have to be careful because I think Chelsea will be a strong player in that, just simply because the funds they will throw towards Harry Kane and Tottenham. And obviously he does have that relationship with the manager. I still think he'd sort of favour a move, and if you're a betting man, he'd more likely to end up at Manchester United. But Chelsea is an interesting shout. But I do go back to George's point in regards to Evan Ferguson. He's definitely someone you would like to bring in, definitely, but obviously sign a new contract. So it will definitely be very hard. Now, if Eric Ten Hag and the club are sort of hell-bent on he is the future, go and spend what it takes. Go and buy him out of that contract. Of course, I don't think that'll be the case, though. He's still a very young player. Chris here went from right back to centre defensive mid as I slowed down in pace. Yeah, I got a little bit deeper. I always stayed in midfield, but I always did a little bit less running and stayed as close to the centre backs as possible and just pinged it out to the wide men and the quick players as quick as I could. Definitely, I think it's the nature of the beast when you sort of start playing football and start to get a little bit older, a little bit smarter. But I'm sure should move to centre back. Look, I'm mixed on it in regards to we wouldn't be having this discussion if he wasn't performing so well. He is performing well, so it gives the manager and player a good headache to have. And Rob here, do you think we'll try and play counter-attack against Brighton similar to the first half in the semi-final? I've no idea. In regards to, I always sort of bring these games up. We look at Brighton and think they actually play a little bit better football. Okay, so are we, while we're sort of better in stature in regards to our name, if they play the better football, are we, a team that's going to sort of set up to sort of counter-attack, even though I have no issue with that. It's kind of sort of not submitting to the opposition, but sort of accepting that maybe you're not as strong as what you are. But in terms of, you do look at the weapons we have with Anthony, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, in terms of his intent in playing through balls, beyond the back four, maybe we are well suited in games like this. Do play a back four, because Tad here brings up the point in regards to away from home. Maybe Brighton are simply just going to dominate possession because that's what they do. I don't actually think they have the greatest home record. I've seen one of those graphs that had all the green and red dots. I don't think their home record is brilliant this season. They're a little bit stronger away from home, but our away form is poor this season, expecting a draw or a loss tomorrow. But in terms of our backyard and our results, we have been horrible away from home, especially against the big teams. Now, I don't throw Brighton in there as a big team, but in regards to league position and football and ability, you do have to. And our record there in recent seasons is obviously tricky as well. So in terms of expecting a draw or a loss, unfortunately, I do have to agree with that. Could I see us losing? I could see us losing. It would be one of those games there. A lot of people won't like this. They'll say, oh, no, your standards have to be higher than this. In my opinion, admit it, I'll take a draw. You give me a 1-1 draw in this game, I take it every day of the week. Now, if Manchester United show up, Manchester United will win. That's in our hands. If Brighton play well and Manchester United play well, we have the better players and the better team, I believe, we'll win. It's obviously up to the players to show up on the day. But yeah, he obviously brings up the point here. I'll be happy to take a draw at Brighton, of course. And I'll take it 100%. Sadly, George here, we've not beaten any current Premier League team top 9 away from home this season. I'm nervous. That is a stat. I'm definitely not taking too much confidence from there, but Rob agreeing, I'll take 100% a draw as well, which is good to see. Maybe I'm not as deluded as I maybe thought I was in regards to a lot of people when you sort of put that notion out there that you're happy with a draw, especially on Twitter, and this is not Twitter, but as you put that out there, people say, oh, your standards are in the gutter, Manchester United is better than that. I think, yeah, it's 30 years to the day since Manchester United won that first title. Obviously, they won it the night before, but obviously that game against Blackburn where Gary Pallister scored that late free kick, that was 30 years ago. Time does fly in regards to our first Premier League title, but the standards are the same sometimes in terms of achieving success throughout a season, whether that's a title or top 4, however you do gauge it. Points away at tough grounds like Brighton are often key. You can't go and win every game. Look at Manchester City. If you go through look at their start to the season, Manchester City, not even their start to the season. Here we are talking about one of the greatest teams ever, and in terms of what they could potentially, unfortunately, achieve this season. Go back and look at some of the results this season. If Manchester United lost at home to Brentford, that'd be a crisis. Manchester United can never lose at home to Brentford. Absolute disgrace, sack the manager. City did that. There's been other drop points here and there. And ultimately, you do go back over the course of the season and you do drop points. That's simply the case. And whether your opinion sees them as drop points or points gained, depending on the context, obviously that does need to be applied each time. But 100% agree with a lot in the chat. I'm taking a draw. If Manchester United show up and play well, we win, of course. And I don't want to use the term because Arsenal have been using it, bigger fish to fry. So I'm definitely not using that term. But there's no hiding from the fact the importance behind it. Now, there is importance obviously in terms of making top 4, but we obviously think we're quite confident in securing that quite soon. obviously all the eggs are in that FA Cup final basket, and I would be looking at, could I rest someone for an extra 30 minutes to make sure they're fit and available for that FA Cup final and take a draw over it? I probably would. So I do think we need to be a little bit careful in regards to our rotation and squad management leading into the FA Cup final, because I think we will drop points in the remainder of this season. But one thing I can guarantee you is the teams behind us will drop points as well. Tottenham, Liverpool, teams like that love nothing more than throwing away points this season. So that does give me confidence. I think another 3 wins. What, we've got 6 games, around 6 or 7 games to go this season in the Premier League. I think maybe 3 wins probably gets us a top 4, guarantees a top 4 in my opinion. So I think we do that. I think it's got West Ham, Fulham, etc. Chelsea will give us 3 points, of course. So I'm very confident of top 4. I don't want to sort of make sure we do touch wood, but very confident. So I am definitely looking ahead to that FA Cup final and making sure everyone is fit, available, and well in form for that match. But Chris here saying we need 3 wins, get us Champions League. Yeah, look, I don't have the maths in front of me, and obviously you do have to sort of play a few calculations in and around other teams and their drop points. But I do think 3 wins should get us there, and I think I wouldn't guarantee, but we will get 3 wins, no doubt. Tad here saying 1-1 at 65 minutes. Garnacho comes on to score the winner. Heard it here first. Piled the money on it. And it's always weird when someone is around sort of contract negotiations and they get that big unveil. I'm sure everyone saw the video with Eric Ten Hag and Garnacho. Whenever that happens, they always they get the limelight. So I am expecting, hopefully it's in a positive light, but I'm expecting if Garnacho comes on, I'm expecting whether a great performance, I just think he'll have an impact. So it is great to have him back, because I've been quite not critical of Garnacho this season, but a little bit hesitant in regards to the hype. But looking back over, forgetting the hype and all the money, the contract, the Argentina, all this, the bleach blonde hair, looking for what he is, a young footballer coming through. He's actually had a brilliant first season at senior football. So I think I need to cut a little bit of slack and maybe pay him a little bit more respect. Obviously, I have 100% respect for him, but maybe he's done a little bit better than what I do think he has done. So great to have Garnacho back. And obviously, in terms of squad rotation, is crucial. Now, before we do wrap up, as I said, I've given you my start in 11. I've given you my prediction and even hope. Unfortunately, it's probably a 1-1 draw in regards to that. If you agree, disagree, let us know in the comments if you're watching on playback, and make sure you do leave a like on the video. Now, just before we do wrap up, as I said, I was hoping to do this with Larry, but did get injured in the warm-up, a few technical difficulties. There's 1 or 2 other topics, get your thoughts in, and anything else you do want to discuss, do let us know. But Rio Ferdinand, Premier League Hall of Fame, should have been in day 1, personally, in my opinion. I think he's Manchester United's greatest defender of all time. If he's Manchester United's greatest defender, by maths, simple maths says he's the Premier League's greatest defender. I stand by that. He should have been in a long time ago. Now, I fully understand the Premier League Hall of Fame in regards to they couldn't have thrown everyone in at the start. It would have lost a little bit of its value. And you could argue it probably has already in terms of some of the entries and the way they've sort of gone about it. There's no doubt about that. But ultimately, he does go down in there as a Premier League Hall of Fame player, and 100% deserved. As I said, the best Premier League player or best Premier League defender and Man United defender I've ever seen. Now, you can sort of value the way, do you prefer a defender like Man Utd or John Terry or Alessandro Martinez, etc., or do you prefer the sort of a player like Rio Ferdinand, a little bit more silky, a little bit more sort of calmer, collected, and reads the game? Obviously, there's no right answer. It's your preference. My opinion is Rio Ferdinand, that style of defender, is absolutely brilliant. So credit to him. I'm sure everyone has seen. If you haven't, there's a video on I think it's the Premier League website. I'm sure Rio Ferdinand and Man United have shared it as well, which is a little 5-minute clip talking about his career from West Ham to Leeds to Manchester United. It's absolutely brilliant. I'll make sure you do go and give that a watch as well. Stevie G. George here saying Gerrard in the Hall of Fame at all, and Rio not in until now. What a joke. I still can't believe it. Honest thoughts in the chat. Steven Gerrard in a Premier League Hall of Fame. Banter aside, look, banter aside, great player, great servant for Liverpool, fantastic career, etc. Taking nothing away from that. But in regards to the exclusivity of a Premier League Hall of Fame, did Steven Gerrard really do enough to get into the Premier League Hall of Fame? Well, Liverpool fans will say, what am I smoking? Look, I understand he did have a great career for Liverpool legend. Like, banter aside, of course. But a Premier League Hall of Fame, like I've just said, there was names before, like Jermaine Defoe. Like, he was nominated in this category for Rio Ferdinand. Rio Ferdinand has gone in. I'm not sure if they've unveiled another player or not, but I know Jermaine Defoe was in this voting. Great player, Jermaine Defoe. Great career, great Premier League career. But if we start giving Premier League Hall of Fame inductions to players like that, and it's not to discredit any of their achievements, but I think if you start doing that, in my opinion, it's absolutely stupid. I don't think Steven Gerrard should be in the Premier League Hall of Fame. Is that me as a Manchester United fan? Or am I saying here, in regards to Rio Ferdinand, 6 titles, simple maths, Yeah, well, Rio Ferdinand's career, just in regards to his achievements, you just have to go through them. He absolutely won the. Did he win the lot? Rio Ferdinand FA Cup? Talk to me. Did he win the FA Cup, Rio Ferdinand, that first season? He would have. Yes, he did. Of course he did. Ronaldo's first season. Rio Ferdinand was there Beckham's last season. So he would have been there in the season that Ronaldo scored that goal against Millwall in the FA Cup final. So he obviously won the League Cup not sure if he got a medal, but in and around. So he did win a lot. Champions League, Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, and whatever the World Cup was called at that time, that World Club Cup. Always get World Club Championship, World Club Super Cup. Always get mixed up on what that one was, but the one we won in Tokyo, obviously. So Rio Ferdinand won the lot. Manchester United's greatest defender, in my opinion. And if he's Manchester United, he's the Premier League's greatest defender. Now, keeping sort of on topic in regards today at all things Manchester United, away from the Glazers, away from Ratcliffe, away from Qatar, etc. A very sort of important moment for Manchester United. So I said to Jimmy Murphy, he should have a cert in front of him. But Jimmy Murphy's statue at the Stretford end is getting unveiled today. I might just bring it up here. I've got it on a tweet if I can bring it up here. Just where it's going to be. It's at the back of the Stretford end. He's saying just one of his obviously famous quotes, "We have the greatest club spirit in the world." And Jimmy Murphy, whenever these things come around, whether it be a Munich anniversary or a statue unveiling, or you do see articles or everything pop up, it's one of those things in terms of Sir Alex Ferguson's the greatest figure at Manchester United, Sir Matt Busby, then you go through the players, Sir Bobby Charlton, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, and all these players, of course, are club legends. I do go back in terms of what we owe as Manchester United fans, like what we have to support this great club, like what have been the steps in place to get Manchester United to where they are. And the more research you do, and look, maybe you could say to me, I need to get a life in terms of stop researching and stop looking back through Manchester United's history, but it's a hobby, obsession, I'm not sure. But the more I go back and sort of look at sort of Jimmy Murphy's impact post-Munich, we owe everything to this guy. Absolutely everything. Like, okay, so Matt Busby, okay, unfortunately was in the crash and then it came back 10 years later to win the European Cup. His legacy, his contribution, unrivaled as well, of course. But the job sort of behind the scenes that Jimmy Murphy would have done, and so the challenges he would have faced mentally, physically, etc., throughout that time, you look what Manchester United could have been if we went down a different road. After that crash. And there was one reason we didn't go down that road, and that was because of Jimmy Murphy. I keep saying Sir Jimmy Murphy. I'll just let that roll off the tongue. But he is one I urge anyone, whether it be around Munich time where you do a little bit more research, or even now with the statue unveiling, go back and read about Jimmy Murphy and his contribution to when the Football League wanted to sort of get rid of Manchester United. And it was just the way he fought off his own back and in his own time for those players, for the players who passed away, for the youth players coming through, and for Manchester United as a whole, for the fans. What we have now is the greatest club in the world. We only have that because of the decisions and the fight that he showed. So Jimmy Murphy, that's coming out naturally. I'm not trying to sort of be sarcastic with that, but it's coming out Sir Jimmy Murphy every time. We owe everything to this guy. So great to see him. Definitely looking forward. I think it's about 1:30 in the morning Sydney time. So I'll catch the photos in the morning and the footage in the morning. But definitely, if you are up, I'd find a stream to that, or where you can watch that. Or if you are at Old Trafford, make sure you get down there, because fully deserving of his spot at Manchester United Stadium at Old Trafford. But actually, here's a bit of trivia question for you. If you are in the live chat, I'll throw a bit of trivia in regards to statues. Can you name the only person at Old Trafford to have two statues? Now, obviously, it's not Sir Jimmy Murphy, because he's getting his first one today. But there is a person with two statues at Old Trafford. If you do know, let me know in the comments. And just as we go, one or two more topics. But it's always interesting. I find not many people know it. But if you do let us know who was the only player. George here off the bat. Thanks for ruining it for everyone, George. But yes, Dennis Law. He's obviously involved in the statue at the front, the United Trinity, in regards to Sir Bobby Charlton, George Best, and Dennis Law. But he also has one inside the Stretford and inside the stadium, which is a very unique one. And do have... it's in the back there. I won't get it, but signed by Dennis Law. One of my most treasured memories, personalised to me. But who are the statues now? We've obviously got Sir Alex Ferguson in front of the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. We've got the three at the front in Dennis Law, Charlton, and George Best. Then we obviously have Sir Matt Busby and now Sir Jimmy Murphy. Who do you think deserves the next statue? In the comments, that's a hard one. I'm not sure. Do you go Ryan Giggs? Obviously, there's the off-field stuff in regards to we sort of have to get through as a fan base, and he has to get through in court. But if there is to be a new statue in the next 10 years, fingers crossed it's Eric Ten Hag. But besides that, who do you think deserves the next statue if that is to occur, and where would it be? In regards to there's not much room in terms of you'd have to maybe the back of the other side of Stretford end. I'm not sure, but do let me know just as we get into our last topic. Two last topics, Chelsea. I want everyone to take back any discussions that people had around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Frank Lampard and saying who was better, who's doing the better job. It's not a debate now. I think we go back and look at the treatment Ole Gunnar Solskjaer received from the media. Criminal. You go back and look at, one, the fan base, but also the way the media treated. Could you imagine now if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was dishing out the results Frank Lampard was doing? I think it's 6 defeats in a row. I believe it's 6 defeats. 5 or 6 defeats in a row. And if you look at their next 5 or 6 games, it's a very real possibility that they lose all of them. And if they do, that you're going on double figures in a losing streak, and they're not going to get relegated because the teams below them have too big a points gap to make up. But what Frank Lampard is doing at Chelsea, not just Frank, it's not just on him. Obviously, it was happening before him, and Todd Boehly is the main issue at Chelsea. But my God, what an absolute! So long may it continue. Of course, I'm absolutely almost not bored of it. But even today, maybe today was a little bit sort of bad because you had to see Arsenal fans happy, so it sort of took away, sort of balanced out a little bit. But what's happening at Chelsea is it's a farce, and one for the players, the manager, and the owner, of course. Long may it continue, but I just go back to the way Solskjaer was treated for getting second with McFred in midfield and Andreas Pereira and Harry Maguire and no strikers and all the off-field dramas. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got second in the Premier League. Frank Lampard has sort of failed at Everton, failed at Chelsea, and I'm just thinking failed at Chelsea a second time. And I just think there was always a discussion that Frank Lampard was better than Solskjaer. Now, I know I defended Solskjaer more than most, and even I got a stage where he definitely did need to leave. He wasn't good enough. But the treatment of him was uncalled for, in my opinion, especially when you heard any media, TalkSport or anyone, Sky Sports, BBC, go in and grill Frank Lampard. Erik ten Hag lost 2 games at the start of the season. Sky Sports are in there absolutely grilling him. I haven't seen Frank Lampard being interviewed by Sky Sports. Where's Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville going into Chelsea's training ground and saying, what's happening here? They're not doing that. And I believe in terms of the equality of sort of treat managers the same, they need to. Now, Frank Lampard's mates with a lot of people in the media, so you can clearly understand why that's not happening. But just enjoying the Chelsea downfall. Now, the interesting one, just as a wrap-up, just seen before we did go live, I was going to have a chat with Larry about it. Sam Allardyce Leeds. Confidently, are you happy with that? Because Sam Allardyce, I think he's a manager that Manchester United fans, you kind of respect, you kind of like. He's a sort of bubbly figure, but you also, in some results he's given us over the past, you sort of don't really have too much time for him, and he sort of gets on your nerves a little bit. So you love him and you hate him sort of thing. But we're going to Leeds. You want to see Leeds go down. So, but is he someone who's going to keep Leeds up? It would be brilliant to see Sam Allardyce take Leeds down, but maybe does he have the tools to keep them up? And ultimately then you're not going to be happy with the appointment. So Sam Allardyce to Leeds is a very interesting one because Southampton are down. I don't want to say unfortunately, but for Everton's sake, I think Everton are unfortunately down. I can't see how they get out of this mess. Then that next team, you have to say Leeds, and who we got? Leeds, Leicester, and Forest. Leeds, Leicester, and Forest, I think. So I believe Leeds. Well, here George here saying that keeps Leeds up. They've got him before they've even in the bottom 3, so he can do his job effectively. To do his job effectively, I'm not sure if he needs a January transfer window. Now he's going to have to go in and obviously do that with the tools at his disposal. But it's an interesting one. The way they concede goals now, if they tighten up the ship at the back, they won't sort of ship those goals, and they'll be fine. But the way they're conceding the goals at the moment, I think they might go down. And I'll absolutely love it. I'd love Sam Allardyce to take them down. But time will tell, and that's going to come around quick. In less than a month, the Premier League finishes, or about a month's time until the FA Cup final. But did enjoy that. Everyone's interaction and opinions in the live chat. Again, apologies. Larry was supposed to be with us tonight. Hopefully he's back post-match against Brighton. We'll be back Friday morning Sydney time, Thursday night UK. If not, I'll fly solo again, but fingers crossed he can join us. And thanks everyone for the interaction and the love. Please do leave a like on the video. We very much appreciate it. If you are new, hit subscribe. Had a few subscribers in recent days, which is brilliant. So welcome all the new patrons to the pub. And chat to you post-match against or immediately after the Brighton match. Fingers crossed, it's 3 points. Until then, cheers.